Hi, it's Vanessa Talbot. Very, very late. I am sorry. I did promise at 4 p.m. Stuff happens and life gets in the way. So what we're going to talk today, as I promised you, was I have a few little tips on how you can stop from being downright boring and not getting any media attention because your stuff is just like everyone else's, to finding ways of making yours a bit different and standing out a little bit. So just a warning up front that you will see people wandering back and forward. My daughter has just got home from school, and I'd scheduled this at the wrong time. Hi, Teresa. So good to see you. So you'll get to see her wandering around and in the background. So anyway, so what we've got to, what I said I would promise you was some, some interesting little stories, some little tidbits that you might like to take on board with some of the people that I know, some previous clients, even some friends, some celebrity friends, and the way that they've done things to stand out, and they have broken the rules when it comes to doing media releases, to get media attention. So there's a very, very stylized format to the idea of media releases. You can see them online. There's templates anywhere. And they're very, very, very standard, headline and then a bit of a paragraph about what it's in and then what, when, who, how and why and all that sort of stuff, and then ending it off with some contact details and a bulk paragraph in the middle. Fairly standard. There's a lot of rules. Don't include pictures. Don't do this. Don't do that. I'm going to break some of these rules today for you so you can have a bit of an idea about how you don't have to abide by the rules all the time. You can shift things up a little bit. So I think who saw my post about my drag queen friend the other day? I think I did that one last night. So there's a little message. If anyone saw my drag queen post, the message was the fact, and I'll tell the little story again. When, quite a few years ago when I lived in an outback town of Kalgoorlie, which is way out in whoop whoop, so to speak, if you want to use Aussie language, but it's way out in the desert country in outback Western Australia. It's a mining town. And I was out there and I had a gig for a street magazine. So it was a Perth-based street magazine and they sent their stuff everywhere. I had a gig out in Kalgoorlie to find great stories for that street youth magazine. And it was really damn hard to find stories, okay? And I found a drag queen. I had heard about him, this guy who worked as a nurse at the hospital. And here he was doing his drag queen stuff. He'd get up, go out in town in his whole rig out. And this is a town that was full of, like I said, it's hardcore miners. Run by the bikies a lot of the place, and bars that had skimpies and that. So it was your typical tough outback mining town. Here this guy would get out in his drag queen. If anyone's seen the movie Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, the reaction that they got when they went into the pub out there at Broken Hill, it's probably a bit the same as it was in Kalgoorlie. It's the same setup. So I thought it would be interesting to do a story on him and how he was being himself in a place where he could really seriously get bashed up for being himself. And yet, in his own way, he was actually getting really, really accepted within the community. So I contacted him for an interview. It was the first interview that he had ever had, the first time anyone had taken any notice of him and what he was doing. And so the magazine loved the story so much. They loved his character and how unusual it was that he was doing what he was doing out there. And I guess the whole theme of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which might have just been out around that time as well, really helped with getting this story, boom, in the light as well. They loved it. They put him on the front cover. He got a whole lot of the magazine to himself, front cover. And then because the story was so popular, they offered him they offered him a hi Curdy. They offered him his own agony aunt column, and eventually he ended up having a documentary made about him as well. So he became quite the character and quite well known. So you could say my little story gave him the break. Now, if I hadn't hunted him down, because I had heard about him as a journalist, I'd heard about him. If I hadn't hunted him down, you know, I didn't have anything to write on for that time. And if I hadn't hunted him down, who knows? He may never have been found. So are you going to get hunted down all the time by journalists? No. He was just a lucky one. He was a character that I heard about, and I was desperate to find someone to write about for that month. What I had wished as a journalist is that I could have a constant pool of leads for stories out there, and I didn't get too many at all. But it would have been great to have people saying to me, oh, I have this idea for a story, or sending me their story ideas. So don't sit back. If you're looking for media attention and you think that it's only given to the big boys because you've got to sit back and wait for, that's my daughter, by the way, in the background. There she is. She's having room. Off you go. If you think that you have to wait for media attention, no. The media are looking for stories. So they are looking for you. So that's the first thing I want to say to you. Don't sit down and wait for the media to come to you. It's unlikely that that's going to happen, you know, unless you're huge. But you've got to put yourself and give stories to the media. And just as I did when I was a journalist, you know, journalists are just people like I was. You know, we're really approachable people who are desperate and looking for a story. So we're going to want and appreciate your ideas coming through to us in those press releases, in those emails, all those ways. Hi, Sarah. Yeah, well, Lucia's gone outside to do the horses now, so she's going to go out and feed them. So as I was saying, I don't want to backtrack too much. I get distracted with all the hellos. Help a journo out. And that's what it comes down to. Don't be shy. If you've got a great idea for a story, you know, journalists are looking for you. So don't sit back and wait. You need to get your ideas out there into front of journalists. Will they always pick up every idea that you pitch? No, they may not. But that's okay. The idea is that they are looking for stories all the time, and they are normal people like me. Okay? And if I could have had a pool of stories coming through to me, I would have been so much happier and made my job so much easier. And of course, if you do get a story done on you, just like my drag queen friend who was the hospital nurse out there in Kalgoorlie, who ended up having a documentary made around him because he became such a loved and known character. You too. Yes, hi Curdy, I see you. You too can get known quite quickly from media attention. Now, is it a media attention, like, is it the sort of thing that you can do one-off and then expect to be famous overnight? No. Once I did the story on the drag queen, and I won't say his name, once I did it on him, it then became the fact that he was given the column in the paper, in the newspaper. Hence, he came a weekly column, which of course got him more known. And then from that, because he was doing the weekly column, obviously more and more opportunities came. And then eventually, as I said, he was doing his shows and everything. And of course, he had the documentary. So it becomes a snowball effect. So a lot of people approach their media with the fact that I'm going to send out one press release and then I'm good and I'll be famous overnight because I'm going to be featured on everything. That's not really how it works. You're very easily forgotten. So media must be a consistent effort. So how consistent you want to be, that's up to you individually, but it's not a one pot thing. If you're going for one pot, that's all you'll get. You'll get the one pot of publicity, and people forget very easily, so you need consistency. So a few little rules that, you know, because press releases are so boring. They're boring in their format. They're boring to look at. I have seen some of the most boring, hideous work ever come through in press releases. Now, what I'm about to say is probably going to annoy some of the PR people, probably going to annoy some of the people who like to stick by the rules and get everything right. It's probably going to annoy some of the journalists out there, but then others of you out there might find it a breath of fresh air. I don't like to stick by the rules with everything. What I've found is that amongst my friends, some of my clients, even some of the celebrities I know, when they break the rules and get out of that ho-hum boring media release, and you would have seen the media release template. If you haven't, then have a look at one. Ho-hum. When you can get out of that and add some light, some personality to it, you might just appeal to the right people. Now, when I say this, bear in mind that it's also going to depend on the target market that you are approaching. So, some people like the real business stuff. I think sometimes you've got to stick by a lot of the rules when it comes to that particular audience, or the corporate, government. If your stuff is coming from there, I think you need to stick by the rules with those. But there's other areas where you don't need to stick to all the rules, and it would serve you to actually stand out. So you may all, particularly the Australians, I'm not so sure about any of the internationals watching, and if anyone wants to jump in and ask questions, by all means type it in, because I can see you there. If you want to type in a question, you want to ask me anything, feel free to do it, because I'll be on here for probably about another 10 minutes to just give you a few ideas of some of the things you can do to stop being batshit boring. So ask questions and I will answer them. And then I'm going out to play because I'm in my workout gear, as you can see, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to work out and I'm going to play. So 4 ingredients. You Aussies will be really, really familiar with the cookbook series that started out originally, the 2 women behind it, the cookbook series, 4 ingredients. Now, it was just a very simple cookbook. It was nothing flash about it. And the 2 women that wrote it, the one that did most of the marketing was Rachel Birmingham. That was her name. I met Rachel a few years back, and she told me some of the stuff behind it, because I said, how did you get, just that little book, cookbook, selling millions of copies? It was just a normal little cookbook. How could you get it selling so many copies, and you did it all yourself as well? And she said it was media publicity. And she said she did nothing right. She had no idea what she was doing when it came to doing media publicity. She had a bit of an idea in marketing, so that helped her. But in terms of approaching the media and that, she said she did everything wrong. And she said she even hired, when the cookbook was selling well and she was making a fair good money from it, and she was able to continue the publicity around it, she hired some journalists to help her out and some PR people. She said they were flabbergasted with what she was doing, because she did everything wrong, totally not by the books at all, and yet she was getting continuous results. You will probably remember here in Australia, you would have seen Rachel Birmingham, and I can't remember her partner, the lady's name, the other one's name, but they were on everything. They were on all the morning shows, the evening shows, on the radios, all with this cookbook. And she told me that what she did was she used to always just send a friendly email off telling about the cookbook or what it was that they wanted to get news on about. And she'd also included always heaps of pictures within her email as well. And that comes down as one of the no-nos that I've actually heard many people say, don't include pictures. The journalist will ask you for pictures later on. And yet she did all the pictures. And I looked at the way she used to present her emails, and honestly, it didn't look like your typical slick professional look at all. It wasn't slick and professional. It looked amateurish, to be honest. Yet she just blasted it. Media loved her. They loved her story, and they loved what she was doing with this 4 ingredients cookbook. And of course, the more places she appeared, the more easier it was to get more stuff. So she never followed the rules once. She included pictures and that in her stuff. That's how she got it, and she was all over the place and made heaps and heaps of money. So that's one particular person who did everything wrong with their media and did not follow the book, but still managed to get a whole stack of publicity. Her trick was with the story and the way that she connected with the people and the journalists that she approached. So she was like a pit bull, and she didn't give up. So if she got a knockback, she went back and she asked again the next month. So that's a little lesson there for you too as well. So that's a question that I always get. Do you put a picture in your media release or not? So that's the big one. So I have seen, I'll answer your question in a minute, Viral. Thanks for asking that, and I will have a look at it for you in a minute. I'll just pop it down here. I'll just finish off this. Do you put the picture in the media release or not? Some people are going to say no. Okay, well, other people are going to say, yes, do it, because it's going to give across an idea of the story. It already saves the journalist amount of time because they can already see a picture that you've provided for them. Some of the people that say no, it's because they say things like the pictures don't come through properly in the email, so therefore your story won't get looked at, all stuff like that. But I have had a celebrity friend who I saw his press releases, and he was on TV at the time. His press releases always included pictures within them, even if it's just, just the one picture might be all that you need to get across the point. If your story doesn't need a picture, then I'd say don't put it in. So don't just put a picture in just to add a bit of variety and spice. Only add a picture in if it is truly of value and can show the journalist or the media outlet that you're approaching something. Like, for example, if it's the weight loss story, you want to show the transformation from before and after in that picture so that they can get straight up that if that's a story that they want to or not. Okay. But yeah, my celebrity friend, he always used them. I've seen charities using pictures in their press release or a picture. I've seen a top well-known zoo will put a picture in. So if they've got a release saying new baby giraffe born, I can guarantee you that often the picture of the baby giraffe is going to be included in that press release because it's going to add to the story and help grab attention for that story in that moment. So that's what you need to think about when it comes to that. Okay, now I'm going to answer your question, Viral. Thank you so much for hanging on. How effective are the traditional publicists in the age of social media and data explosion age when blogs get more visibility than a face-to-face interaction? Are publicists worth the money that they charge? That's a tough one because I have publicist friends, so I'm not going to say that they're not worth the money. I think what you have to work out is they can be very, very expensive, okay? And it comes down to a time versus money factor, all right? So doing your own publicity can be very, very time consuming. There's no doubt about it. So if you're doing your own press releases, contacting your own media, that's a certain amount of time per day that you must put aside to do that if you are doing a media strategy and media campaign for a particular product or any reason that you want to get yourself out there in the media at all. So if you're doing it, that's your time put away. So if you've got the time, it's probably, and you learn to do it yourself, you can build the relationships as well with those people in the media. So with the journalists, with the media outlets, the relationship building comes from you, okay? And I love that. I love the idea that you can build the relationships from you. I've found some of the people that have got the best publicity have been because they have had fantastic relationships with a particular journalist or media outlet, so they keep going back to them. Now, if you're hiring a publicist, they're the ones that are building the relationships. So yes, they might be getting these, the media opportunities for you and getting you the stories, but you're not at the one that's actually building the relationship with the journalists or whatever. So I think that's an important factor to look at as well. Okay. Also, as I said, it comes down to time. If you don't have the time to devote to publicity and you have the money, then yes, hire a publicist. So there's no easy answer to that one, and it's going to be very much on your particular circumstances and what you want to achieve as well. For me, I've hired a publicist once, and that was a time factor. because I was going away on a cruise just when I happened to have a book launch thing happening. Very stupid of me. So I hired a publicist for a month to do work while I was on that cruise. When I came back from that cruise, I then took over and did a lot of stuff myself. And to be very, very honest, I found that I built the best relationships and got the best results when I was doing it myself. Okay, but that's just me. Some people are too time poor or too busy with other areas of their businesses. Okay, so I hope that answers that one for you. Another thing I want you to avoid is when you're sending in a press release, and I've seen these as well, again, batshit boring. Pages and pages and pages to make up a press release. And honestly, as a journo, I do not or did not or would not, I'm not a journalist anymore, of course. Thank you, Byron. I'm glad that it helped you. I would not be wanting to sit there reading through reams and reams and reams of information. So if you're going to do your media release and send something out, keep it short, keep it sharp, keep the information in there. If one A4 page, it's all you need. One A4, that's it. Boom. You don't need to provide every little bit of it. Now, if they want to do a story on you, now there is the reason that that is done, and that is so that the whole story is provided to the journalist and they don't have to come looking for it. Okay, but on the other hand, so that might be the case. Okay, so they might go, okay, I've got a full story here, I'll just take it all and I don't have to do anything except copy and paste and there's my story for me. But on the other hand, if I'm a journalist and I'm super busy and I'm in overwhelm and I've got deadlines, the last thing I've got the opportunity, the last thing I want to be bothered to do is to look at pages and pages and pages and pages of a press release. I just want the short story idea, short, sharp, and also for me, because I'm visual, I prefer a bit of visual excitement. So if there's an image with it, great. If there's not, that's okay. But if there's an image, great. I want it short, sharp, information, all just in one page. Then if I decide I want to do a story, I'll contact you via email or phone for more information. And then you can send me the rest of the reams of paper if we decide that that's going to be great and it's going to save me a lot of time because you've already done the story for me. Okay, so that's that. Do not write press releases that go on for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages. I've seen them. They just, whew. And the last thing that I want to talk about as well, which is another thing that you can break, that this is one I mean not to break the rules. You must not do this. When you send your media release out, don't send it as an attachment, because for a lot of places now, you know, emails that they don't know that come through with attachments, you know, they won't, their security systems don't allow the attachments and all that stuff to get open. So your best bet to be safe, and plus attachments can harbor viruses, so hence the security systems don't allow those through if it's from emails that they don't know, which often if you're conversing with a new media outlet, they won't know your email. So the best thing that you do is you actually introduce yourself and with a quick intro to your email, and then put your press release in the email underneath. So it's actually in the email that you're writing and sending. It is not a Word document or PDF document or anything like that sent as an attachment, because a lot of the time it will end up, you know, in spam or somewhere like that and never get seen. So that is one place that you cannot break the rules. So just in summary, where you can break the rules so you can stop being batshit boring, okay, is you don't have to follow every rule and have this very, very stale looking press release that's come straight from a press release template. Yes, it's a good idea to do the format, but if you want to add a bit of color to it instead of being boring old black and white, then do it. If you want to add an image to it, then do it. Remember, Rachel Birmingham didn't follow any of the rules, and her publicity was huge and immense because what it was about was the story. It's the story angle that she was presenting, and the fact that she also would follow up all the time with her journalists and her media outlets. So what you need to focus on is how can you stand out? So if that includes an image that's supplementary, meaning something that you're not just going to go and throw an image in there just for the sake of an image. It has to be an image that is supplementary to the story. But if that's going to complement the story, complementary. If it complements the story, then in it goes. If it doesn't, don't put it in there just for the sake of it. Put some color into your press release if you want to. It doesn't hurt, and it always makes little things like this can make your press release stand out from someone else's. Make sure that your lines also, this is another thing, little squashed up typing and lines like this, and you need a magnifying glass to read it, or I've got to zoom in or something to read it. No, so make sure that there's good spacing too. So yes, this is where people squash their lines up and their print and put a small font on it because they're trying to get everything fitted into that A4 page. So what you want to do is with that A4 page, you don't want to try and get masses amount in it. You're going to say, I'm going to have a good size font with good line spacing between it, and that's how much I've got to get my message across. And if you can't get your message across in that amount of space, then you need to relook at the way that you need to be able to be short and sweet with your language for your press releases. So a lot of people want to ramble on and on and on and give so much information, and therefore, because they were told not to do pages, they were told to do only one A4, they then go and make the font really small so they can fit everything in. We don't want that. Again, it's just too much. So that's another place where you can make sure that you've got a decent size font. So if you need to use bigger font, you'll have less information, but it makes it far easier to read for the press release. So that's a few tips how to stop yours from looking batshit boring. As I said, you do not have to have it looking sleek, clean, and just black and white and very, very professional looking, unless, of course, that is the market or the particular media platform requires that look. So as I was saying, business or corporate type things are probably best left to that, but you've got a lot more license to play around when you're playing with other media stuff, okay? Even in regards to podcasts, and at the moment I was talking with someone this morning who does podcast bookings. She was talking about the run sheets, and I said, how do you make yours look? And she told me that she adds logos, color, and she showed me an example of a well-known coach's run sheet that they were used for his podcast bookings. And yeah, it's visually interesting. It's not just plain paper with plain old black and white on it. It is exciting. It's visually interesting. Sorry for that. So again, break some rules there. If you've got a bio or something, it just doesn't need to be presented on a boring piece of, white paper with your black writing. You can jazz it up, add your logos, add your colors, all that sort of stuff, and make it look interesting and good so that yours stands out as well. So if you are interested at getting how to actually do the press releases, how to pitch for podcasts, the big blogging sites, sorry, I've got a sore throat now, how to get into magazines, and even how to get yourself on radio, and even at the top bit, how to get yourself on those TV shows, because TV is probably one of the bigger ways to get known quicker because more people see you because it's a much wider audience. Wow the Media, we are open now. We start next Thursday, so we've only got a week of registrations left. We are filling up, so if you want to grab one of those spots, please go to Wow the Media. I'll put the link here with this particular replay as well and in the comments. And howdy, Jordan. Nice to see you. That's a name I'm not familiar with in my group yet, so it's good to see you. Good to see some new names here. Wow the Media will do all that for you, and we'll show you myself, some of my guest presenters, and one of them will be a PR publicist as well. It's going to come on and do some of the training as well with you. We will show you how to get those podcast gigs, all the way up to how to actually get yourself on TV. I have a lot of people say, I don't feel ready yet for media attention. You may not feel that you're ready to jump onto Sunrise or the morning show or Dr. Phil tomorrow, but you are ready at whatever stage your business is at. You are ready to start spreading the message of your work that you do, at the very least on podcasts and via blogging. And as you get used to that over the 16-week program, you will well and truly be graduated up the levels into the idea of also being in magazines and on radio and TV as well. So don't think that you have to go into this and get on TV as well. You might just want to have this information to learn how to really get yourself out there and really get known via the media of podcasts and blogging as well. So that is, a couple of the modules are based on that as well. So it's a great training for anyone who feels that you're not quite ready, and we'll actually show you that you actually are at whatever level your business is at. So whether you're a newbie, okay, we do want you to have an idea of what your message is, because your message is very important when we're crafting story angles, and that's one of the things that we do with you, is craft some story angles that you can approach the media with. So you need to have a really good solid idea of what your market is and what your message for that market is, but that's all you need. Beyond that, you are ready to grab media attention and use it to expand your reach, meaning to get known, reach more people, build an audience, because the more places that you're seen and heard and to a wider audience, the more of those people that begin to get interested in you and your message, they connect with you, and then you start to build your following bigger and bigger and bigger. Just as a little side note, Gabby Bernstein, you know, the happiness spirit junkie, she started out holding classes in her little apartment in New York or wherever it was, and a couple of people at a time would come along on cushions, and now she's like, you know, world famous and has this huge business and everything with Spirit Junkie and the whole happiness thing. And how did she do it? She just started to reach out to every media that she could possibly do and get in on. So again, it's consistency. It does take a bit of strategy as well, and that's something that we'll train you with as well, how to strategize yours, how to be consistent with it, and also the right steps to do. And we'll also talk about how not to be batshit boring and how we can change the rules as well to make you stand out. But the fact is, the more media you get on, the faster your profile will grow. It is one of the top 3 ways to grow your profile, because you can reach a wide audience very, very, very quickly. You all heard my story at the very beginning about my Kalgoorlie drag queen. That's an idea, and how I was the first one to interview him, and then he ended up having a whole documentary and film made on him. So there you go. So Wow the Media, we have got a few spots left. It is starting May the 11th, which is Thursday. If you're international, check the time zones. It is live call based, as well as a membership area with resources in it. So we do it at midday on Sydney time, and that seems to suit a lot of people. The US, it seems to suit quite well. I'm not so sure about UK, but you know what? You do anything when you need to get these trainings done so that you can actually build your business bigger and bigger. I know I did. I've been up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning doing trainings in the US, because our time zone here in Australia is completely different. So I'd love to see you on Wow the Media. You've only got a few more days to jump in on that, and I will put the link there for you very, very shortly. Jordan, okay, so you're from Blackburn in the UK. Just wanted to take a look. Sounds good. Cool. So thank you for listening. For those of you that have popped in throughout the time and asked me some questions, those of you who had listened, go back to my Kalgoorlie drag queen story, and then you'll know why it's so important to start putting yourself out there in forms of media, even if you feel you're not ready. Okay, you might not be ready for TV tomorrow. I get that, and that's okay. But you are ready to jump onto podcasts, to jump onto blogs, and even jump onto the many online and print magazines that are out there as well. All this stuff is stuff that you can do now. And then when you graduate into being ready for radio and TV, we're going to have you on that as well. Okay, good night. I'm going to go off and have a play with my horses. Bye-bye. Thanks, Jordan. See you later.